The moment my best friend's mom asked me to stay the night. The afternoon sunlight spilling through the half-open curtains felt heavier than any darkness I had known. Her voice was steady, but her eyes carried years of quiet loss, the kind that never truly sleeps. I remember standing there, heart racing, realizing that sometimes the most life-changing moments don't arrive with thunder or chaos, but with a simple request spoken in daylight, when the world looks normal and yet everything is about to change. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of being there for someone when they need it most, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. I had known Ayan since childhood. We grew up on the same sun-baked street where afternoons were filled with bicycle races and dusty laughter. His house always smelled like clean floors and old books, and his mother, Farzana Malik, had a calm presence that made everyone feel welcome. She was the kind of woman who listened more than she spoke, whose smiles were soft and whose strength lived quietly beneath the surface. When Ayan and I were teenagers, his father passed away after a long illness, and though life went on, something in that house froze in time. Farzana kept moving forward, but I could sense the weight she carried even during the brightest mornings. Years later, Ayan moved abroad for work, chasing opportunities he felt he couldn't find at home. I stayed back, working a modest job and helping my own family. I often visited Farzana, mostly to check on her and keep her company during the day. She never complained, never asked for anything. But that particular afternoon, the sunlight felt different, almost too bright for the heaviness sitting in the room. She had been quiet all day, hands resting on her lap, eyes fixed on the window as if waiting for something that never arrived. The house was filled with daytime sounds, the distant call of a vegetable seller, the hum of traffic, the faint ticking of a wall clock. It should have felt alive, but instead it felt hollow. I noticed small details I had ignored before, the untouched photo frames, the neatly folded shawl on the chair, the cup of tea growing cold in her hand. Loss doesn't always scream, sometimes it simply waits, patiently, until someone finally notices. When she asked me to stay, it wasn't dramatic. There were no tears, no shaking hands, just a simple request layered with years of loneliness. In that moment, I realized how often we assume adults, especially parents, are strong enough to endure anything alone. But strength can become a prison when no one checks if the door is locked from the inside. I agreed without hesitation, though I didn't fully understand what staying would mean. As the afternoon stretched on, we talked about small things. Neighborhood changes, the weather, Ayan's childhood stories that made her smile briefly before the sadness returned. I could feel her trying to hold herself together, like a wall with invisible cracks. The sunlight moved across the floor, marking time, reminding us both that the day was passing, whether we were ready or not. As evening approached, Farzana grew restless. She moved from room to room, straightening things that didn't need fixing, as if movement could quiet her thoughts. I realized then that her request wasn't about fear of the night, it was about fear of her own thoughts when the house grew too silent. Daytime loneliness can be just as heavy, especially when the light only highlights what's missing. I stayed, not as a guest, but as someone who understood that presence can be a form of healing. We shared a simple meal, the kind that fills the stomach but also warms the heart. I noticed how she relaxed slightly, how her breathing slowed when she wasn't alone. It struck me how rarely we offer our time without expecting something in return, and how powerful that simple act can be. Over the next few days, my visits became more frequent, and staying over during the daytime turned into a routine. We would sit near the window, watching people pass by, talking about life before loss and life after it. Farzana began opening up, not with dramatic confessions, but with quiet truths about how empty the days felt since Ayan left, how the house echoed with memories, how being alone during daylight made her feel invisible to the world. I struggled internally, questioning my role and boundaries. I wasn't trying to replace anyone or fix her pain. I simply wanted her to know she didn't have to carry it alone. There were moments of doubt, moments when I wondered if I was overstepping, but each time I saw her smile a little longer or laugh a little louder, I knew kindness rarely needs permission. The turning point came on a warm afternoon when Farzana finally broke down, not in tears, but in honesty. She admitted that loneliness had become her biggest fear, that the days felt endless and purposeless. In that moment I told her, gently but firmly, that she didn't have to be alone anymore. It wasn't a promise of permanence or obligation, it was a reassurance that someone cared enough to show up. From that day forward, the house slowly began to change. Sunlight felt warmer, laughter returned in small doses, and life found its way back into the corners that had grown dark. We started small traditions: tea at noon, walks on the rooftop in the late afternoon, conversations that wandered from memories to hopes. Farzana began reconnecting with friends she had distanced herself from, her confidence slowly returning as she realized her life wasn't over just because one chapter had ended. Ayan eventually visited, surprised and relieved to see his mother lighter, more alive. He thanked me, but I told him the truth. All I did was stay. Sometimes staying is enough. Sometimes being present is the most powerful form of love. As time passed, I learned that kindness doesn't always come in grand gestures. Often it arrives quietly, in the form of shared afternoons and unspoken understanding. Farzana taught me that healing isn't about forgetting loss, it's about learning to live alongside it, letting light and connection soften its edges. Near the end of this story, if it has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need hope, comment your feelings, and subscribe to Kindness Touch. Your engagement helps spread messages of compassion and reminds others that they're not alone. And just before we close, I have a special request for you. Please comment below with one kind thing you've done or plan to do for someone who feels alone. Your words might inspire another viewer to act. That afternoon request changed both our lives, not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. It reminded me that sometimes the bravest thing someone can do is ask for company, and the kindest thing another person can do is say yes. In a world that often rushes past quiet pain, choosing to stay can be the most powerful act of all.